Clear the air with Kia.
San Francisco driving is wild. Steep hills, tight streets, and traffic that's slower than the fog. But my Kia Hybrid loves it. All those hills help charge the battery. I went from the marina to Bernal Heights, detoured to Oakland, then drove the coast to Half Moon Bay. Still haven't filled up.
Kia hybrids like the Niro and Sportage hybrid go further on a single tank. No chargers, no stress. And with regenerative braking tech that turns stop and go into smart efficiency, you'll drive more and fill up less. Find your balance at kia.com. Kia, movement that inspires.
What's good, y'all? And welcome to our first episode of the Rare Frequency Podcast. As y'all know, I'm always open to rebranding this joint, man. I really just don't. I'm trying to find what works, what sticks, and what gathers my tribe. So if y'all are my tribe, if you're listening and you feel like I love what's happening here, I like what this dude is saying, I want to share it, please like and subscribe. Let me know by the numbers, right? By the data. I'm a data cat, so let me know you feeling it, right? I'm gonna keep. I understand and know. I realize that my message is important, but I want to make sure that I'm getting it to the right folks, that it's branded right, that it can attract the right eyes, and folks can be encouraged by it and learn something or resonate, or the messages can resonate with them and help lead them forward. So again, this used to be the Uncut Gems podcast. It is now the Rare Frequency Podcast, right? I'll probably do an episode on why I named it that later. But if you got my most recent book, Rare on Purpose, then you will understand. This is all about how to be rare, how to be yourself, all of you, right? And one of the reasons why I continue to rebrand the podcast is so that I can bring all of me, right? Yes, I am a leader in the tech and AI space. So I'm going to be talking about leadership stuff. I'm going to be talking about management stuff. I'm going to be talking about tech, right? I've been calling myself the Tech Coach Unc, right? You're going to see Tech Coach Unc, but Tech Coach Unc is not just talking about tech, right? Sometimes I'm talking about coaching things. Sometimes I'm talking about some aspects. You know, I am also a professional coach. Coach a lot of leaders at a lot of companies, Dropbox, GitHub, some others, Booz Allen, many organizations out there. And you're going to hear me talk about some coaching things, but also some things that I'm really just passionate about. I'm an author. I love to write. I'm actually in the middle of writing my first fiction novel. Anybody who loves fiction, I think y'all might be able to dig what I'm writing about. I'm an 80s baby, so I love talking about anything 80s. I don't care if it's cartoons, if it's toys, if it's wrestling, if it's sports. I love talking about the 80s, man. It's where my heart is. In fact, my book that's coming out is set in 1988, which, debatably greatest year of all time. Yeah, you heard it. I said what I said. So listen, right now, I know if you like me, maybe you came up in some unorthodox conditions, some less than ideal situations in life. Maybe you came through some trauma. Maybe you from like an underrepresented background or underrepresented group like I am, right? A black man from Cleveland, Ohio.
Clear the air with Kia.
San Francisco driving is wild. Steep hills, tight streets, and traffic that's slower than the fog. But my Kia Hybrid loves it. All those hills help charge the battery. I went from the marina to Bernal Heights, detoured to Oakland, then drove the coast to Half Moon Bay. Still haven't filled up.
Kia hybrids like the Niro and Sportage hybrid go further on a single tank. No chargers, no stress. And with regenerative braking tech that turns stop and go into smart efficiency, you'll drive more and fill up less. Find your balance at kia.com. Kia, movement that inspires.
Grew up in the 80s, throw that back out there. When you know this truth, man, sometimes in those type of situations, and I know a lot of y'all can relate, we evolve survival mechanisms, right? And those mechanisms can become kind of both our biggest strength and our biggest trap, right? For me, growing up, my life was constant change. I mean, like, we had no like official home to settle in. We moved I would say every year, but sometimes it was multiple times in a year. Right. So what does that mean for a child? Well, it meant that I didn't make long-term friendships. Right. It was a long time in my life before I finally had a friend that had carried over for some years. Right. I didn't have stable neighborhoods or a consistent community. So what did that teach me? Well, it taught me to adapt. When you're little, you don't like moving, right? You cry, oh, my friends, I'm gonna leave all my friends. Man, it's sad. It's really sad, and it can be traumatic. Now you multiply that times 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 12, 15. I think I moved probably 16, 17 times as a child, right? It's a lot of survival, right? Eventually you stop crying. You stop crying. I'm going to miss my friends because you know what? I'm not making any friends anymore. That my skills have adapted. My life, my brain has kicked into survival mode. Stop making these long-term friends and learn how to move, adapt to the thing that happens most often. And what happens most often? Well, you get thrown into a new house, new apartment, new place to live, new bed, new rooms, new situation, new landlord, and you adapt, right? So that's what happened most often. So even basically, I would probably say what I did in life was I got a PhD in adaptation, right? And listen, that's not optional. I couldn't opt in and opt out, right? As a child, and especially as the youngest child, I had to survive, man. I had to learn how to move, how to accept instability like it was the norm, because it was my norm, right? So in order to not go crazy and not just be in constant trauma, your brain adapts. So what did that mean for me? Well, a PhD in adaptation, right? That's what I do. That's what I learned how to do best. Right. So you fast forward. OK, now I'm an adult. I've built a career in data. Right. If it really started to dawn on me before I went into management. Right when I was on like the cusp of management, when it was being mentioned, hey, we see you as a leader. We want you to manage people. Right. I already had 10, 15 years in the game, building data warehouses, data architecture, delivering results. Right now, anybody who works in that world knows that it's not usually ideal. There's a lot of adaptation, right? So I'm right in my environment. I'm in the thing that I'm most comfortable with, right? We're throwing in the projects. The project changes. The scope creeps. I can remember the first time I learned about scope creep. It was in a negative sense, right? We were learning how to optimize business processes, and scope creep was mentioned as something bad. And I was looking at it like, that's what happens. That's what is going to happen every time, right? It was something I had accepted, right? So the key is this, right? For me, coming out of this black dude coming from Cleveland, didn't have a traditional upbringing, didn't have the traditional education path, right? When I made it to where I thought I should be and got my career where I wanted it to be, my motto was simple.
Clear the air with Kia.
I wanted to go electric, but I also wanted something built here, not shipped in. That's how I found the EV6, built in the state of Georgia and packed with more United States and Canadian parts than any other car sold here, whether an EV or not. Sleek design, over 300 miles of range, and yeah, the EV6, it's a Kia. Same goes for the EV9. Big, bold, 3 rows, all electric, and assembled in the U.S.
If you're looking for American-built and electric, you don't have to choose. Just start with Kia. Movement that inspires.
Shock the world. That's what I did. I made it from there. I got here. So this is what I do, right? I am what people don't expect. I can do more with less. I adapt on the fly. Given limited circumstances, I can work it out. In fact, I think, really how I got into data was off of being able to write creative SQL to solve complex problems really quickly. Right? Being able to solve the problem with complex SQL really quickly. And it's because my brain was so adapted that I saw outside the box. I didn't learn SQL in any class. I taught myself SQL. And I taught myself by looking at other people's SQL and seeing what I didn't like and doing it differently and thinking outside the box and creating loops in my own brain and ways to get to the outcome, being outcome driven, right? Nowadays, the ways that I used to write code is not the best way because it's going to be expensive, right? That was for those times where things were on-prem, right? Now that things are in the cloud, I would have had to change. If I'm writing a lot of code, I wouldn't write it the way I did back then, right? So I'm taking these non-ideal situations, I'm getting creative, and you know what? A lot of times the stakeholders don't know what they want. Fine. A lot of times the scope was creeping. It was inchworming. Fine. I didn't care because even if we didn't have the time or the money, I just said, I'm rolling with it. These are the conditions. I will adapt. And I would put my head down and just adapt, right? Fight against my ADHD to concentrate. But the ADHD wasn't such a problem in those moments because the dopamine hit was there, right? The challenge was already there. The challenge was on. Not only was my reputation staked on me doing that, my ego was staked on me doing that. So I would adapt. I would do it.
Clear the air with Kia.
I wanted to go electric, but I also wanted something built here, not shipped in. That's how I found the EV6, built in the state of Georgia and packed with more United States and Canadian parts than any other car sold here, whether an EV or not. Sleek design, over 300 miles of range, and yeah, the EV6, it's a Kia. Same goes for the EV9. Big, bold, 3 rows, all electric, and assembled in the U.S.
If you're looking for American built and electric, you don't have to choose. Just start with Kia. Movement that inspires.